as everybody else was alluding to, our Patreon request this week, as requested by Athanasius, however the fuck you say that name, get a better name, buddy, was the 2004 film The Passion of the Christ. If you also want to get your pick requested and reviewed by us, go to guapish.com/Patreon, and for $1 a month you can subscribe, and every month you get to request one movie for us to watch, and potentially you could be just as lucky as this fun fella who got their movie picked. And this, of course, is the story of Jesus Christ. And what is your fun fact, Tanner?
Fun fact, Jim Caviezel was struck by lightning during filming, and an assistant producer of the film was struck by lightning twice during filming.
Were they like carrying lightning rods or some shit? How big were their boom mics? Who are these fucking dudes?
One of them was they were both together under an umbrella and got hit. And then there was a second time where, I don't know, the assistant producer just got fucking hit, man. I don't know. I was reading, there were a ton of injuries in this and like really weird shit going on.
No.
God was not happy about the production of it.
He did not want this film to be made.
Yeah, I guess not. Like Jim Caviezel genuinely got really like fucked up, injured bad during the course of this.
Yeah.
Like at one point, you know, he's carrying a cross on him and he has to stumble or whatever. That stumble like caused the cross to come down hard enough on him that it dislocated his shoulder, or didn't dislocate.
How heavy was this cross?
It separated his shoulder.
They just made an actual big ass cross for him to carry.
Yeah, it's a for real cross. They wanted him to fucking really thug it out.
I assume so. That's what makes the most sense.
I mean, I think it makes sense to have it be a big foam fucking cross.
That's what I would think too, but no, they wanted him to suffer much like the real Christ.
Really putting him in character.
Also on the whipping scene, the way they were doing it is they just had like a wooden board on his back that they were supposed to hit, but there were 2 times they just missed and then actually flogged him.
Oh.
And one of them left, I think it was like a 17-inch permanent scar across his back.
Okay. Interesting. What I heard about like that whipping scene is the way that they did that was they basically just like did like all the makeup, which by the way, apparently the makeup for those scenes took like fucking like 10 hours or some shit like that to apply to him.
I can
And so
believe it.
what they do is they would just like have like all the wounds and stuff like that just like already on him, and they just like digitally make it so like he looked normal. And then like as they would like whip him, they just like scrub off like the, you know, like the normalness and make it like the actual makeup underneath it get revealed.
Interesting. Okay.
That is a very curious technique. Honestly, I feel like we could be talking about the techniques they use to apply these effects on these characters a lot more than we can actually talk about the movie itself. The movie's plot is pretty simple. It's just Jesus gets fucking thrown into the fire by the Jews, and then he gets tortured a lot and then crucified, and that's basically the whole movie. And it's kind of just watching some guy get tortured for an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, personally, I'm not a big fan of it where like there's required reading material for going into a film.
I unfortunately did not read the whole Bible before watching this. I failed you guys.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I think the most interesting perspective out of the 3 of us on this movie is Jackson's. Jackson, is this movie engaging or interesting at all, not being familiar with the Bible and the story of Jesus previously?
No, I was pretty indifferent to all of this. I mean, to me, this is just a movie about a guy getting fucking tortured for 2 hours. I didn't really get a whole ton out of it other than that.
It's a fast 2 hours, though.
Maybe to you. The silence speaks for itself.
Yeah.
For some of those scenes that I would be like, okay, Jackson, what does that mean? And he'd have no idea. So, okay, so here's the explanation.
Right.
That happened like 3 times.
Yeah.
I was also, in fairness, I was also quizzing him a lot about random shit that was not entirely related to the movie. Just shit about Jesus and crucifixion in general.
Well, you see, Jesus is from Bethlehem.
Yeah.
You know he's from Nazareth, you fucker.
He was born in Bethlehem.
Yeah, you fucking pretentious little dick.
Yeah, I was... So, my main notes I wound up taking down is you have to read the book. I do think, like, there's definitely a baseline level of knowledge that they just kind of assume you have going into this film.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting period piece, like the display of early Roman Judea and whatever. It's kind of interesting. I believe that Mel Gibson cares a lot about historical accuracy, so I trust that that's largely done.
Oh yeah, what about the fucking table then, dude? What about that table Jesus made? That was very obviously like modern looking wood that he was using to make it.
That goes into my third note, which is kind of goofy. There's a lot more goofiness in this. Like, that's just a straight up bit.
Yeah.
That's like a comment, the whole like, oh, in the ancient world, the first guy to do a modern thing, and they're like, that'll, she literally word for word says, this'll never catch on. Like that. That is such a cliche joke. It does not fit in this movie at all. I'm like, what?
It was very weird.
As Nico pointed out, all the ghouls, that is weird. Like,
so supposedly, what I've heard is that like Mel Gibson is like Roman Catholic, and so this is like a Catholic thing that stems from like some nun at some point had a bunch of visions about like what happened during the crucifixion, and I guess that's where like those like weird demon babies and stuff come from. Allegedly, from what I've heard. I'm not entirely sure, but
yeah. And that disciple who's like hiding under the bridge, it gets jump scared by like the nun from the Conjuring universe. Yeah, and that's one thing I mentioned to you guys. Like, as I'm watching this, I'm constantly going like, okay, is this something they made up for the movie or some weird Catholic thing I've never heard about?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's very funny to learn that those ghouls are like a Catholic thing. Yeah, I mean, it's a story of Jesus. That stuff looks pretty unpleasant.
It does look pretty rough. I personally would not want to be in his shoes, and I'm happy he took those lumps for me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus. I don't believe in you, but, like, you're a fucking G for that one.
I mean, you don't believe him in a spiritual sense, but, he was a guy and he died at the very least.
I mean, the fucking historical accuracy and ambiguity of his existence is still kind of up for debate.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I'm literally reading about this right now, and it's just tons of debates on people actually debating the validity of it. If it's just hearsay from people 2,000 years ago, if it actually is legitimate, like, actual fact. But I'm seeing a ton of conflicting answers, so I'm just going to lead myself currently with my 10 seconds of research as it's up for debate currently.
I don't think it is all that debated. Like, the Roman historians who have mentioned him are very well respected, and they're like used as sources on other events around this time period and not really questioned. So I think a lot of that is just people have an agenda to cast doubt on his existence and whatnot.
Alas, you also have an agenda to cast,
Dude, I'm not even an active Christian right now.
Oh, well, you're more of one than I am, so I'm just gonna believe this is some fucking movie based on fanfic.
Yeah, I don't know. The effects were well done. The acting, they're not speaking English, so I can't really comment on the acting, to be honest.
Fucking terrible, too. Holy shit. And I got like half of what they're saying.
And what's weird is it seems like that's all intentional, because I watched it via, like, YouTube. So, like, presumably that it was, like, the official lyrics, the official subtitles. The Bible is written in a very poetic, method, Yeah,
almost like a song. Yeah, no, I think this movie is pretty boring for me personally. I didn't really get a ton of value out of it. I think the structure of it as a story is just okay. I think the big thing that's carrying it is just its set design. Obviously, the makeup is very well done. I think just the production of the movie is pretty good. I do like the flashbacks of comparisons to his life before. He was fucking tortured and beaten, and him like thinking these thoughts of life before it. I think it's interestingly done. But yeah, this is kind of just like a nothing burger movie for me in the end.
My kind of thing is like, why this ties into like you kind of have to have read the Bible or have some knowledge of Christianity to really get into this. Like, why would you care about his crucifixion if you're not super familiar with his teachings?
Yeah,
because like they didn't really touch on like what he actually taught people that much.
Well, they didn't really tell us anything about why he was being crucified in general. Like, you could maybe even say, like, he's like a witch type thing, you know? Obviously, they're crucifying him because he's claiming to be a false god from their perspective, I think, but...
Yeah, they were just saying, like, oh, he claims to be the son of God, but they don't explain, like, why that's a bad thing at all, or, like, I don't know.
I kind of disagree.
Even show us him doing some magic or some dumb shit, you know, like fucking turning water to wine. I kept saying that, like, just turn fucking water to wine, prove to them you can do these things, heal somebody's wounds or some shit, and they didn't do any of that.
That's the thing, like, in that day and age, people didn't really question, like, magical occurrences, so that wouldn't have actually meant anything to them.
That's because they didn't know what anything was, so everything's magic to them.
Yeah. They had one miracle in it where he heals the one guy's ear who got cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing, like one of the Roman historians who mentions Jesus kind of offhandedly, he's like, yeah, people say he's a miracle worker, but he also grew up in Egypt, so of course he can do magic. So the fact that like he could do miracles like that no one questioned that for hundreds of years, because like no matter what you believe, you were like, yeah, magic is real.
And speaking of magic, his eyes, they were brilliant throughout this. Like, holy smokes. Apparently that was all done digitally as well. Those weren't like contacts they put in him.
Oh, yeah. So much effort. Why not use fucking contacts?
I don't know. They had money
Jim
to burn.
Caviezel has naturally pretty eyes, though. We saw that in Sound of Freedom when he was watching children be raped.
Those motherfuckers, though, like when people make jokes about like blue-eyed people all the time, that motherfucker had like green eyes or whatever, but he had blue eyes in spirit. Those things were captivating.
Weren't his eyes like orange?
I don't fucking know. I can't remember.
Okay.
There's some color that's abnormal.
Okay. I will say one other thing. I liked the depiction of Pilate in this film. I feel like in most like media and stuff like that, like what you're told like in Sunday school or whatever is like, yeah, and then there was Pilate and he was an evil man. He hated Jesus or some shit like that.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I remember at the very least.
That's never, I feel like it was pretty accurate to how I was always taught about him, where it was like, yeah, he didn't want to do this, but he was kind of forced by the circumstances of his era.
Okay. Yeah, for me it was like, yeah, Pontius Pilate, he put Jesus to death. And that was about all they would say about him.
Gotcha. Now, I always got this more like nuanced version of Pilate where it's like, yeah, because like in the Bible it does have him say the line like, I find no fault with this man and I wash my hands of his death or whatever.
Yeah. And like in this film, you very much so see that. He's like, why the fuck does people not like this Jesus guy so much?
Why do they hate this guy so much?
And he brings out Brutus or whatever, the murderer.
Yeah,
and
Barabbas.
And he's like, okay, do you want this chill guy to live, or this dude who's an infamous murderer who's killed untold amount of you? They're like, yeah, what is wrong with you people?
These fucking Jews, I swear to God.
Dude, speaking of the Jews, this is going to be the dumbest, most ignorant thing you've ever heard, but I think there's like the one meme template with the Jews, like not, you know, they're like fucking lambasting Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing the same outfit. That's literally the whole comment.
Yep, that's the outfit Pharisees wore back in the day.
I'd never seen that outfit before outside of that meme, so it's like, oh my gosh, the meme.
Yeah, I learned a lot about what Jackson would be willing to put up with in a relationship through this film. He said that he would, in fact, be chill to have sex with his girlfriend if she forced him to wear that outfit.
As long as I'm getting laid, baby.
That's very fun.
Speaking of getting laid, let's hear what Dylan has to say about this film, assuming he told us what they are.
Alright, so this is gonna be my review of The Passion of the Christ. Man, what an interesting movie to review on this channel. I don't really know what to say about this movie besides, yep, this movie happened like it was explained in the stories that I've heard and in the stories that I've read. Plot pieces were very well done. Acting was fine, I guess. I like how this movie was in a language that's pretty hit or miss on knowing it, I guess. I'd imagine Hebrew is not very common. Also, love the fact that I don't know if it was just specifically the version we watched, but how inconsistent the subtitles were. I think we mentioned before, like, only the main characters got their dialogue subtitled. I mean, this movie was good. I thought it was very competently made. I liked the dramatism in it. Yeah, I don't have any issues with this movie. I thought it was a pretty accurate retelling. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the only one, possibly, who thought this way. I know there was some questions and some flags going off in the chat, so whether that was for better or for worse, I won't know until this review goes up and I hear that episode. But I do believe that maybe for other reasons. Yeah, there's not a ton I could say about this movie. Much like my Girl Next Door review, it's a controversially, depending on who you are, this is based on a true story. So I can't really say too much. This is also just extremely weird for me to review in general, besides saying, yeah, it was a competently shot film with good acting, good line delivery, plot pieces looked great. Not much else to say. Given all that, I gave it an A-.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. Maybe you heard it, maybe not. I'm sure he had some fun takes somewhere in there. Speaking of Dylan's ranking, though, he gave an A-. That, Tanner, what's your ranking?
A-. Fair enough. I gave it a B+. I think it was an interesting movie. I think it's kind of cool to see this stuff, like, so faithfully adapted or whatever, but, like, strictly speaking as a story, it's, like, kind of whatever.
Yeah, I agree, which is why I'm giving it a C- personally. Jackson,
Whoa.
What about you?
Dude, I give it a C+.
Wow, okay.
I think
all
it's
over the board here.
I think it's just totally whatever. Like, I think it's a fucking average movie from, like, most standpoints, but I do think the thing that pushes it up a little bit for me is just the fact that the set and outfit designs were quite well done, and that's literally all I have to say. It's like a nothing burger with a cool set.
Yeah, it was okay. Wasn't I don't know. I didn't pull much from it personally.
Based. I expect it to be the lowest on this movie. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked by that too.
Nico's going to hell.
Oh.
True. I'm joining them. I'm gonna fucking drop it down to D+ later.
I'm sorry, dude. My hatred for the Catholics just really overpowered my love for Jesus in this film.
Fair enough, dude. One of my friends was like, dude, there's too much Mary stuff in this. You can tell it's Catholic. I'm like, I didn't even really notice that.
Is Mary a Catholic thing?
The Catholics, they love Mary. They're way into her. Like, listen, Catholics would fucking kill me for saying this. They put her, if it's like Jesus is here, Mary is like right here. Like, they almost treat her as like a god, but they swear they don't.
Why? She's just some dumb broad that got knocked up early.
Quite frankly, I think it's slightly sacrilegious, and they sort of make her into an idol, but hey.
But they'll get very angry if you say that, and they'll start giving you a 5-hour lecture about how 4,000 years ago they fucking said, oh, this is what you can say about... Oh, it's fucking whatever. Who cares?
Is it cool to put the Virgin Mary on the ultimate waifu ranking tournament?
I wouldn't recommend it.
I'll
I
give
would
you
also like to
permission.
just throw this out there real quick. I'm fine with you Catholics, okay? I don't really hold anything against you. I think some of your ideas are a little odd, but overall I think we have the same intentions here in mind. We're chill.
And I'll say to our Catholic audience, before I knew anything about Catholicism or had met any Catholics, I had a purely neutral opinion of you. And then after I started interacting with Catholics personally, I developed a slightly negative opinion, so it's your fault.
Yeah, I don't like Catholics because there's too goddamn many of you and you're clogging up the street I lived on, you fuckers.